All right, in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at maintaining a clear position. Position falls under task response, and task response is how well you answer the essay question. Now, if you look at band 7, and I just want you to look at the box in red, we have clear position throughout. So if you want to get the band 7, and I'm sure most of you do, if you want to get that band 7, you have to have a clear position throughout your essay. So from the start till the finish. But before we go on, I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think position means? Please write it in the chat box. Oops. Okay. On topic, opinion. Okay, good. Yes, position can mean opinion, your view, your opinion, exactly. Yes, good. Anything else? Someone here mentioned on topic. Not exactly. Position does not exactly mean on topic. All right. Okay, let's move on. Good. Some good answers. Okay. Position is just a direct response to the essay question. So if the essay question asks you, do you agree or disagree? Your position would be whether you agree, whether you disagree, or whether you agree to a certain extent. So kind of like a balanced view. Okay. Now, if the essay question is asking you for causes and solutions to a problem, then your position would be what those causes are, what those solutions are. So your main ideas would be your position. And your position, in your position, you also need to be clear so that there are no contradictions. You don't contradict yourself. You don't say one thing and then you say something else. We're going to look at some examples now. But before we do that, we'll look at how you can make your position clear. And the first thing you need to do is before you start writing, you need to decide what your viewpoint is, or you need to decide what your main ideas are. And the best way to do this is by making a plan. So before we write, we spend 5 minutes making that plan, the plan with our main ideas. And then we present the ideas consistently from start to finish without contradicting ourselves. Now, some students think that in an IELTS, especially an IELTS opinion essay, then all I need to do to make my position clear is introduce it in the introduction and then repeat it again or rephrase it in another way in the conclusion. But that is not enough because that is not a clear, that doesn't give you a clear position throughout the essay. We need to make sure our position is also clear in the body paragraphs. Okay, now before we look at how to make our position clear, we want to look at the different positions that we can take in an example question. Here we have a question about global warming. The government needs to do more to prevent global warming. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay. So you're in the exam and you have this question. There are at least three main positions that you can take. What are they? Can you write them in the chat box? Okay, so you're in the exam, asked for repetition. You're in the exam, you get this question. What are your options? How could you answer this question? What are the different positions that you can take? Okay, good, thank you. You can agree, okay? You can disagree, Okay, and you can agree or partially agree. You agree to a certain extent or only under certain circumstances. Okay, very good. So we actually have three options and we're going to look at them now. Okay, I can agree that the government needs to do more. Yes, they're definitely not doing enough. There are so many things that the governments need to do. I can disagree that the government needs to do more. No, I think the government is doing a fantastic job. There are more important things the government needs to worry about. Global warming isn't one of them. Okay. The third option I have is I could say, well, you know, the government is actually doing something. They're doing a pretty good job, but you know, there are a lot more things that they can do. And this is like a partial agreement. A balanced view doesn't mean that you agree and you disagree. That's just not possible. Okay, you agree under certain circumstances or to a certain extent, yes, but we can't agree and disagree. So this is kind of like a balanced view here. Okay, good. Now, here we have a plan, a simple plan for an essay. And we've got our introduction here. Let me just get the spotlight. Yeah, okay. Here we've got our introduction, and this is the position that you're taking, for example. I totally agree that children should be taught social skills at primary school. And then this is my first main idea that I would introduce in my first body paragraph. This is the second main idea in the second body paragraph, and this is my conclusion. I'd like you just to take a minute to read it and tell me, are there any contradictions in position, or is there anything unclear? Okay. Okay, so we have up to a point, we have outweigh the negatives, we have clear view. Okay, let's go through this one at a time. Now, the first main idea supports the position in the introduction. It's easier for children to learn it at a younger age. It becomes more difficult for them to learn it at an older age. And then the second main idea is talking about the advantages of teaching social skills at primary school. It builds confidence, it builds individuality. So up to here, it all supports the position. We come to the conclusion, it says, oh yeah, the benefits of teaching social skills outweigh the negatives. But where are the negatives? Did you mention any negatives here? No. No. Here, you're kind of contradicting yourself. And the problem that is caused here, I'll show you in the, we'll go back to the slide with task response, but this time I want you to look at band 5. Look at the red box in band 5. It says expresses a position, but the development maybe is not clear or the conclusion is not clear. So in the previous situation, in the social skills essay, the conclusion is not very clear. Although there was a position and the development was somewhat clear, but the conclusion wasn't. And that's could possibly reduce you to a band 5. Okay? All right, here's another plan, and this one is on teaching PE lessons at school. I'd like you to do the same thing. Take a minute to read it and tell me, are there any contradictions? Okay, good. We have some answers. Good. Wurud and Salha and Satish. Yes, exactly. Body paragraph 2 or main idea number 2 completely contradicts the position. So the introduction, main idea 1, the conclusion are all the same, but main idea number 2 is different. Very good. Okay, here's one more. Please do the same. Okay, so we have from Salha Jose saying there are no contradictions. Exactly. Yes, position is clear throughout here. Okay. My position, smoking should be banned. Smoking in public, sorry, should be banned. And this is because it's harmful for smokers' health. Okay. It's also harmful. Well, in a way, you're harming other people because a lot of non-smokers who are around you will not be able to tolerate the smell of smoke. Okay. And then here in the conclusion, we've got due to the harmful. And harmful here refers back to main idea number 1. And then unwelcome effects passive smoking has on people refers back to main idea number 2. It should be made illegal to smoke in public. So there are no contradictions here. And the position is clear from the introduction to the conclusion. Good. Now, I'd like to let you in on a secret. You will not be asked to write about smoking in the IELTS exam. You will not be asked to talk about smoking in the IELTS exam either, because this is considered a very controversial and sensitive topic. But this is just to illustrate the point only. Okay, now we will briefly look at making your position clear from the beginning until the end. But now we need to look at, well, how do I indicate my position? How do I let people know what I think, what I believe, that this is my position? And in this lesson, we're going to look at 3 different ways to do that. We're going to look at using introductory phrases, using grammar, and by grammar, I mean using verbs, using adjectives, and using adverbs to indicate your position. And very briefly, we're going to look at how we can use although to talk about our position. All right. First, we have introductory phrases. These are all phrases that you can use that you are probably all familiar with. And we have, in my opinion, in my view, I am of the opinion that, my personal view is that. And these are very common in introductions and conclusions, and they're perfectly fine. You can use them, no problems. And we have a sample sentence here. In my view, university education should be free for all. Now, we have some introductory phrases that you should not use in an IELTS essay. Any ideas what they are? Let's see. Oh, good. I reckon. Good. Why? Why can't we use I reckon? It's informal. Very good. There are a lot of informal phrases that students use in essays, and you really shouldn't, because the examiner will immediately spot that. Okay, here now we're going to look at some more here. Here we have according to me. According to me is incorrect. It doesn't exist in English. Now, we can say according to research, according to studies, or even according to my professor, but we cannot say according to me. This does not exist in English at all. And unfortunately, I see it in IELTS essays. Now, then we have, if you ask me, this is also too informal. Should be avoided as well in essays, but it's very good to use for speaking. As far as I'm concerned, this is also considered a little bit informal, and I would avoid it. Okay, so that's introductory phrases. Now we're going to look at verbs. Okay, we can use verbs to indicate position. We can say I think, I believe, I feel that, I agree, I disagree. These are fine. They're not low level. This is what people normally use in academic essays, in university essays, in IELTS essays. This is a good alternative if you don't want to repeat I think or I believe. You can say I would argue that. Okay, so the structure is a little bit different. And we have some sample sentences here. We can say I would argue that watching YouTube is both educational and entertaining for children. And this is kind of like a thesis statement here in the introduction, because you're telling the reader, okay, I'm going to write about how YouTube is educational, possibly in one body paragraph, and then I'm going to write about how it's entertaining in another body paragraph. Another example, personally, I disagree that a vegetarian diet would cause serious health issues. I'd like to point out the adverb personally here. We can use this adverb with any of these. So you'd put it just before these phrases, and then it would be followed by a comma. Some students think that, oh, I'm repeating myself. I'm saying personally, and then I'm saying I think or I believe. Isn't that repetition? No, it's perfectly acceptable to use both of them. Okay, next we have some weak verbs. Okay, now if I tell you, I assume, I presume, I suppose, do I sound 100% certain? Am I confident in my answer? No, very good. Okay, and in IELTS, they want you to maintain or to give a clear position and maintain it. If you use I assume, I presume, I suppose, it doesn't sound like you are confident. It doesn't sound that you know what you're talking about. You're only going to put ideas in there that you can argue, that you can prove. So we would avoid using these verbs. We could use these in speaking, that's fine, but not in the IELTS essay. Okay, here's another verb that you need to avoid. And this is the word opine. Anyone have any idea what this word means? Any ideas? Yes, Hiba. Opine is the verb form of opinion, and it's accurate. It exists. It's grammatically correct to use it, but it's inappropriate. It's not suitable for an essay for several reasons. The first reason, it's a very, very old word. And most native speakers don't use it. Most native speakers don't even know what it means. And I'm going to admit that I had no clue what this word meant until I started seeing them in essays. And I actually thought students were writing a wrong word or a made-up word until I saw it more than once and I had to look it up. I looked it up, I'm like, oh, it actually exists. So I would avoid this word because it's not used anymore. And it's also it's used in a lot of classic writing, very old English, and it's just not suitable for an essay. So please, please avoid this verb. Okay. Okay, now adjectives. How we can use adjectives to make our position clear. So instead of saying I believe, I think, I can say it is clear that. I am convinced that. I'm certain that. It is unlikely that. And like I said, these are in the place of I believe or I think. And here we have some sample sentences. I am convinced that climate change is mainly caused by human activity. So instead of saying I believe, I'm convinced. Now you can also say I am unconvinced. I disagree. It is unlikely, and we can also say it is highly unlikely, that harsher prison sentences will reduce the crime rates. Okay, now we have adverbs of opinion. These adverbs also state how you feel about something. So we've got unfortunately, and when you see this word, unfortunately, you know that the person feels badly about something. It's not, they know that this is not good. Shockingly, worryingly, undoubtedly, interestingly, and clearly. These also tell the reader your position. And we'll look at some examples now. Here we have clearly the advantages of working from home far outweigh the disadvantages. And again, this is just in place of, in my opinion, or I believe. Interestingly, dieting is not the most effective method of losing weight, as dieters often find it challenging to continue for more than a few days. Worryingly, the government is doing very little to solve this problem. This tells the reader that you think the government needs to do more. Fortunately, adopting a well-balanced diet can help reduce symptoms. So here you're talking about one way to reduce symptoms, and you're mentioning that adopting a well-balanced diet is a good way to do it, and possibly an easy way to do it. Undoubtedly, deforestation has a more devastating impact on our environment. And here we've got a more devastating impact because these adverbs also serve as linkers because they're linking two ideas together. So maybe we've discussed before this, we've discussed about how other things could impact the environment, but I think deforestation has the biggest impact. Okay, now it's your turn to try. I'd like you to write a sentence, just one sentence, using one of these adverbs, a sentence that states your opinion. And just put it in the chat box, please. All right, so we've got a really good sentence from Suran. Interestingly, coronavirus does not spread through the air. Okay, good. Shockingly, my diet only lasts for 1 day. Okay, good. Clearly, this virus has changed our lives in different ways. Very good. Undoubtedly, the government will lift the curfew sooner or later. Excellent. Okay, good. Very good. Excellent examples. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have another one? Unfortunately, social distancing is not helping in many countries. Okay, good. Very good. Okay, now we still have some more adverbs. We've got adverbs of emphasis. Now, you might think that, oh, we use significantly and considerably and dramatically in the academic task 1. Yes, we can also use them in academic task 2 to state how much we think something, how much effect something has. And here we've got, for example, eating a balanced diet can dramatically reduce your risk of developing degenerative diseases such as cancer. So from this word dramatically, you can tell that, yeah, I'm all for this idea. Okay. Learning a second language may significantly improve your chances of finding a well-paying job. So these adverbs also indicate your position. All right, your turn to try. Write a sentence using one of these adverbs, indicating your position on any topic that is common in IELTS, for example, global warming, pollution, crime rate. Okay, I'd like to mention a point here. We do not use these adverbs at the beginning of a sentence. They modify certain verbs. So they're different from the adverbs we saw a bit earlier that started at the beginning of the sentence. So we cannot use these verbs at the beginning of the sentence. We cannot say seriously, comma, or dramatically, comma. Okay, we'll just go back a slide just to see how they're used. So they modify the verb. So dramatically reduce, significantly improve. Okay. So Hiba, can you rewrite your sentence a little bit so that it's accurate? Because we can't use significantly at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, good. Poverty in villages will significantly change. Poverty in villages will significantly change. Okay, how will they change, Abu Bakr? Okay, good, Lamia. Carpooling can significantly help reduce traffic congestion. Excellent. We're still talking about coronavirus. Okay, excellent, Tiba. Yes, that's a much better sentence. Thank you. Okay, good. I think you got the hang of it. Very good. Okay, now we're going to look at although. And I want you to read this sample sentence with although here. Okay, so we have, although herbal medicine can be effective in curing mild illnesses, there are too many health risks associated with their use. What's the position from this sentence? As a reader, you're the examiner, what do you understand from this sentence? Exactly. I'm not recommending it. I don't think it's a good idea to use herbal medication. Okay, so I'm somewhat disagreeing. I'm disagreeing with it. Very good. Thank you, Saeed. Yes, and Salha, I'm not agreeing exactly. Okay. Okay, now, although I know you're all familiar with although, but I'm just going to state it here now. How do we use although? We use although, and then we put the idea that we disagree with first, and then the idea that we agree with. Now, although is good to use when we kind of want to give a balanced view. We're saying, yeah, well, I acknowledge that there are benefits, but actually the disadvantages are a lot more. I mean, it's got so many other problems. So although is good to use in discussion essays where you need to talk about other people's opinions and state your opinion as well. Okay. Good. Okay, so we looked at how to give your opinion, how to present your opinion clearly from start to finish. We looked at introductory phrases, using verbs, using adjectives, using adverbs. But sometimes we need to talk about other people's views. We always aren't asked to just talk about our opinion. in essays where you're asked, do you agree, sorry, discuss both views and give your own opinion, you must discuss other people's views. So it's important to make it clear to the examiner which are your views and which are views of other people. You don't want to get those mixed up. Now, most students use these phrases to introduce other people's opinions. They'll say, many people think, some people believe, some people argue, or they might just say, many argue, some feel. You can just drop the people here if you want. It's perfectly fine. And these phrases are perfectly fine to use, but we don't want to be repeating them. We want to use other phrases or more higher level phrases if possible. So here are phrases that we can use to introduce other people's views. It is commonly argued or believed that. Some are of the opinion that. A commonly held belief or view is that. Advocates of something, for example, harsher prison sentences, believe that. Those in favor of harsher prison sentences argue that. Those who oppose harsher prison sentences feel that. So we can use any of these phrases to introduce or present other people's views for the first time. Yes, Suran, you can also say it is commonly believed. Yes, very good. All right, here are some sample sentences and how we can do this. A commonly held view is that school exams cause children to become overstressed. And this here will make it very clear to the examiner, this is not your view. Those who oppose alternative medicine feel it is not always safe and is often misused. A typical argument is that capital punishment would deter people from committing crimes. So people who believe this is their argument. Now this is the same point, but worded differently. Advocates of capital punishment believe that the death sentence would deter people from committing crimes. Some would argue that petrol should not be subsidized by the government. And last sentence we have, it is commonly believed that global warming needs to be addressed by the international community. All right, now it's your turn. I'd like you to write one sentence, okay, using one of these phrases here about any opinion you want, any topic that is common in the IELTS essay. But let's just avoid that word that we were supposed to avoid. Okay, good. We have an answer from Satish. Those in favor of homeschooling argue that it can increase cognitive skills. Excellent, yes, but we say it can increase. Okay, okay, you're going faster than I can read. Hold on. And we have an answer from Wuruz. Okay, so Wurud says some are of the opinion that, okay, I would say some are of the opinion that schools should teach children or juniors the skills of proper parenting. Okay, very good. Very good. Suran says, it is commonly believed that governments should not promote urbanization. Excellent. Hiba, a very good answer as well. It is believed by others that superstition can change your destiny. Okay, you don't, Abu Bakr, you don't need to say by others. You can just say it is believed. It is believed that. We don't need to say by others, okay? It doesn't quite sound right. Suran, yes, very good. Salha, very good. Saeed, advocates of climate change believe that governments should impose more measures to save the world. Very good, excellent. Thank you very much. Very good answers. Okay, now in a discussion essay, you need to present other people's opinions just like you did now, but then you need to go on and explain them. You need to go on and say why they think that way. You can't just mention it and leave it there. You have to explain why they feel this way. You're kind of like arguing in their place. So now we're going to look at some phrases that you can use after you've presented other people's opinions to explain why they feel that way. We can, now after we present their opinion, we can say they claim that, they feel that, they argue that, they maintain that. Okay? And we're actually going to look at a sample paragraph now, a short paragraph. And I want you to find, yes, this paragraph is about teaching art in school. I want you to find the words or phrases that indicate other people's views, not your views, other people's views. Just type them in the chat. Very good, excellent answers. Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so here are, oops, where are they? We have advocates of art lessons in school. Claim, we also have claim. Claim, when you say somebody claims something, it's saying that, but I don't really believe it. Okay, and we also have they argue that. So it's very clear that this is not your opinion. Okay, now, oops, can you find the words or phrases that indicate the writer's position or your position? Very good. Good. Okay, personally is one, excellent. Clearly is another, but there's also another one. Exactly, Satish. It's unlikely. Thank you. Good. Very good. So here we have this paragraph, and we've got the phrases or words in blue are other people's opinions, and the phrases or words in green are the writer's opinion. Okay, and this way it's very clear to the examiner or to the reader what your position is and what other people's positions are or is. Okay, and that actually brings us to questions. If any of you have any questions about maintaining a clear position, using any of the phrases to present or explain your position, I'm ready to answer them. You can just put your questions in the chat box, please. Okay, how do we develop ideas? That will need to be a lesson in itself. Then maybe we can do a lesson on how to develop and extend ideas. That's a very good recommendation for a lesson. Safwan and I will discuss that. Okay, good. If there are no more questions specific to this lesson, we will make a note of all your questions, please, and we'll hopefully discuss them and see how we could include these in future lessons. And thank you very much for attending today's lesson. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice evening.